Beijing wants to rewrite the global order. That's the message China delivered this week. More fairness, more equality, more representation, more power for the developing world. But there is one country missing from China's vision: India, the world's largest democracy, a nation backed by much of the world for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. And the one country still standing in the way may be the very country demanding reform: China. China says the global South deserves a bigger voice. But when it comes to the single biggest demand from the developing world, China suddenly goes quiet. At a press briefing in Beijing, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called for greater representation of emerging economies at the United Nations. He spoke about fairness and equality, and the need to strengthen the voice of developing nations, but yet opposes India's demand for a permanent UNSC seat.
The current international system built after World War II, as we are seeing, is facing multiple challenges. Global governance is like an upsailing against strong currents, and it risks ever ducking forward. At this important juncture, President Xi Jinping has soundly put forward the Global Governance Initiative, calling on China to build a more equitable global governance system. As a permanent member of the Security Council and the largest developing country, China has actively participated in the building of the global governance system, especially since entering the new era, guided by the Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy. China has held high the banner of a community with a shared future for humanity and has taken the lead in practicing true multilateralism. We are committed to upholding fairness and justice and always speak up for the global South. We have facilitated BRICS' historic enlargement and development of the SCO. We have supported the AU in joining the G20, proposed initiative on open and inclusive cooperation of the Global South. We have announced 8 actions to support Global South cooperation, and with all these, we have boosted the Global South's joint pursuit of modernization. We are committed to solidarity and coordination, and to build platforms for international governance.
India's demand is hardly new. New Delhi has argued for years that the Security Council reflects the world of 1945, not the world of today.
By advocating expansion of the permanent category, India's consistent effort has been to bring in a greater sense of balance and equity in the Security Council and change the decision-making parameters of the P5, while being mindful that the principle of sovereign equality of states would not be applicable in its entirety, unlike the UNGA, due to such foundational DNA enshrined in the Charter.
Back when the United Nations was created, much of Asia and Africa was still under colonial rule. The Security Council's 5 permanent members were frozen in time: the United States, Russia, China, Britain, and France. 80 years later, the world has changed dramatically. India now represents more than 1.4 billion people. It is a nuclear power, a G20 giant, one of the world's biggest economies, and a major contributor to UN peacekeeping missions. Yet it remains outside the most powerful decision-making table in global diplomacy. What makes the story even more striking is that 4 of the 5 permanent members now openly support India's bid. The United States supports it. Russia supports it. France supports it. Britain supports it. Japan supports it. Germany supports it. Brazil supports it. Many African nations support it. Only one permanent member still refuses to explicitly endorse India: China. Even during recent India-China diplomatic talks, Beijing merely said it understands and respects India's aspirations, but stopped short of backing them. That distinction matters, because understanding is not support, and respect is not endorsement. Critics say this exposes a major contradiction. China wants to be seen as the champion of the Global South, a defender of developing nations, a voice against Western dominance. Yet when the conversation turns to giving the Global South its most significant seat at the table, Beijing becomes cautious. Some analysts believe the reason is simple: China is currently the only Asian nation with permanent member status and veto power. Supporting India would mean sharing that exclusivity, sharing influence, and potentially reshaping Asia's balance inside the United Nations. So the question facing Beijing is becoming harder to ignore. Can China truly champion greater representation for developing countries, while opposing the biggest reform demanded by the developing world? Because every time Beijing speaks about fairness at the United Nations, the same question returns. If the Global South deserves a stronger voice, why not India? And until that question is answered, China's rhetoric on UN reform may continue to collide with its own reality.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.